Hi Year 5, it's Mrs Flavell here, and I'm here with your next science lesson, and it's on reproduction in flowering plants. Now, last time, our lesson, we looked at asexual and sexual reproduction. Now, sexual reproduction involved two living things to come together to reproduce a new plant or animal, and asexual reproduction, which normally happens in plants, involves only one plant to be able to do the reproduction of that plant. So today we're looking just at the reproduction in flowering plants, where actually two plants are needed for this type of reproduction. First of all, what a plant needs. So to be able to grow, a plant needs air, so it's oxygen and carbon dioxide. It needs light, it needs water, it needs nutrients which normally come from the soil, and it needs warmth, normally from the sunshine. So why does it need them? Well, if a seed is not warm enough, it will not germinate. That means the seed won't pop open to start to grow. Germination is when the seed starts to sprout into a plant. If a plant does not have enough light, it will grow to be tall and flimsy as it searches for light, and it will probably die. It will probably look very yellow in colour as well. It will look unhealthy. If a plant is not watered enough, its stem will be fragile and have very dry leaves. It will eventually die because it has dried out. The water helps to hold the plant up as well as use for photosynthesis. What parts of a plant do? So we've got the stem. It transports the water and nutrients to all the parts of the plant. It also holds the plant up with the flower on top of it from the root system. The roots take up water and nutrients from the soil. They also keep the plant in the ground. Now the leaves are really important. We can make our food, we have to go and cook it, okay? Plants are clever, they can make their own food. The leaves use a process called photosynthesis. So photo meaning light, synthesis means to combine the light with the nutrients to produce food for the plant. They use light, water and carbon dioxide to do this. Unlike us, we breathe in oxygen. Plants need carbon dioxide to make theirs, so this is why plants are very useful to us. We breathe out carbon dioxide because we don't use it, and plants breathe out oxygen because they don't use that. So this is why plants and animals come in well in harmony together, because one produces one oxygen for one, and we produce the carbon or breathe out the carbon dioxide for the plants. Right, here is the life cycle in a quick nutshell, and I will go through it in more detail in a moment. So we've got germination, process 1. 2 is when the roots form. 3 is when the leaves and the stem and the leaves form. 4 is when the plant begins to flower, and 5 is the seed dispersal at the end, when the plant begins to die and the seeds disperse at the end. Right, the first stage is germination. This is where we plant the seed, or we can even put the seed onto some wet piece of cotton wool or paper towel. And germination is when the seed first begins to grow. So germination, the seed starts to grow when the conditions are suitable. So the conditions that we discussed are: it needs warmth, it needs water, and it needs not nutrients yet, but it certainly needs warmth and water to start the germination process. Right, the roots. The roots usually grow underground. That's because they are naturally geotrophic. Geo meaning the ground, and that means the roots always head down towards the ground. You can plant a seed upside down and the roots will still come out first and start to grow down towards the ground. Right, opposite to naturally geotrophic is naturally phototrophic, photo meaning light. So the stem and leaves form and the plant makes its own food for photosynthesis. Okay, so phototrophic means it naturally will go up and push up towards finding light. Stage 4 of the plant is when the plant is flowering. So the pollen in the flowers will be used to make the seeds. So once the leaves are photosynthesizing and creating food, it creates enough energy to make a flower. This flower is going to be the next part for the generation of this plant. And part 5 is seed dispersal. Once the plant has grown and it has created its flower and the flower has been pollinated by a bee normally, or some insect, or the wind even has come along, the seeds are then spread out so that they can grow where they are not fighting for space with the parent plant. So the seeds will what we call disperse, and that means they're spreading out, and it's got to be away from the main plant so that it's not going to fight for light and for nutrients and for water like the parent plant would. Some other flowering plants other than the bean, obviously a bean is a plant that grows and it will grow the seed and it will grow beans again. Sunflowers, they will grow the sunflower seeds to grow other sunflowers. And you've got orchids, they produce seeds to produce the next orchids. Tomatoes, obviously if you cut a tomato open, it's full of pips or seeds as we know them. Those seeds, if you dry them out, you can carry on and grow another tomato plant from those. So some flowering plants produce seeds just like the sunflower. The orchid produces tiny seeds within the plant to reproduce, and tomatoes produce the seeds within the fruit. So, in a nutshell, we've got germination part 1. The seed starts to grow when the conditions are suitable. That's got light, it's got warmth from the light, it's got water, and then obviously it needs the nutrients. Then it grows its roots first of all to anchor itself into the ground. The roots grow normally underground, naturally geotrophic. We've got the leaves that then form, so the stem and the leaves form and the plant makes its own food, it photosynthesizes. Remember, the stem and the leaves are naturally phototrophic. We've got the flowering part where the pollen and the flowers is used to make the seeds and pollinate other flowers. Insects normally help to do this. And then we've got the seed dispersal at the end where the seeds are spread out so that they can grow where they are not fighting for space with the parent plant. Right, using the diagram to the right, you might want to cast back to the other slides previously, and I want you to draw and label the 5 processes of the life cycle of the bean. Okay, use the previous slide to give you a short explanation about each process, or you can go back over the previous slides and use those 5 slides to help with you. Remember to pause it, give yourself time to draw them down carefully and write an explanation about each part of the process. Right, I'm going to look a little bit more at the seed dispersal at the end of the plant's life. So once the flowering plant has reached the end of its life cycle, it has to disperse its seeds. It's got to reproduce. It's got to make sure that these seeds are going to go on and create more of these plants. Okay, types of seed dispersal. There are different types of it, and we'll go through each of these carefully. Right, the first type of seed dispersal is wind. The wind helps blow the seeds from one place to another. So sycamore or helicopters and dandelion clocks both have fruits which have adapted to use the wind to carry the seeds away when the seeds are ready. You might have come across sycamore seeds, you might throw them up and they flutter down like helicopter rotors, or dandelions, you've probably all picked a dandelion up and blown away the seeds, telling the so-called telling the time by the dandelion clock for each time you blow the seeds until the seeds are blown away. Bursting, okay, a bit like a balloon, bursts. Some plants have pods like peas. They're full of seeds which will burst, showering to the ground with the seeds, like Himalayan balsam seed. Peas are another example of a plant that bursts open to disperse the seeds. Beans are another one, and a plant called, or flower called, sweet peas. They are similar. They have pods and they burst open. Shakers, a bit like maracas. Some plants rely on being shaken to disperse their seeds. When poppies have produced their seeds and have finished flowering, all that is left is a long stem with a dried seed pod. That's normally at the top of it. These pods have small holes at the top and rely on the wind to shake them and scatter the seeds. This method doesn't send the seeds very far. So Eucalyptus seeds also need to be shaken. And there's some examples, as you can see underneath. Water. Some plants rely on water to disperse their fruits. These will either grow on the water or by the side of the water. Water lilies live on the water, so they use the water to disperse their seeds. They make very light seeds which will float away on the water for a while, then sink to the bottom of a pond to grow a new lily. Obviously it floats away so that it needs to grow a little bit further away from the mother plant again, so it has got room to grow. Palm tree seeds are very light, which helps them float and grow another palm tree elsewhere. Palm trees that grow by the oceans drop their seeds, which can be swept great distances by the ocean's currents. Coconuts are well-known travellers. It has been known that palm tree seeds have even actually turned up on the shores of our shores in Great Britain from a long, long way, such as as far away as the Caribbean. So they do travel great distances on the ocean's currents. Willow and silver birch trees often grow near water as well. Their seeds are really light. They're very light, which enables them to float away on the water. The silver birch seed is also fluffy, which helps them to disperse by the wind. It's quite often the silver birch seeds that you find, little brown tiny seeds that blow in through your windows when you're at home, because they travel such a far distance. Even if you haven't got a silver birch in your area, you still find seeds blowing through your window and they come in. Catching the ride. This doesn't mean that they are going to thump a lift with anybody in a car or on a lorry. It means that some plants, such as cockleburs, have developed to grow tiny hooks on their fruits which hook onto animals or people, if you brush past them, that pass by the plant. Eventually they will drop off onto the ground somewhere else normally. Okay, and you've got a dog here has been covered in burrs because he's obviously been through the bushes, picked up loads on his fur. Okay, and burdock seeds, they're really spiky. They quite often, and there's another one that you might often find on the bottoms of your trousers if you've been through some bushes and that, and they are goose grass, and they're little tiny round balls that have got little tiny hooks on them, and they hook onto your clothes. Right, okay, so why do plants disperse their seeds? I want you to list the ways in which the seeds are dispersed, the 5 different ways, and give a little explanation to each way in which they are dispersed. Go back, pause, go back over the slides, and you will find each way so that you can find the information out from here. So remember to pause it, and I'll get back to you with a little bit more about seeds and the dispersal and the importance of seeds in a moment. Right, seeds are not just for reproducing the plant, they are often used as food as well. So some plants make tasty fruits. This is to encourage animals and people to eat the fruits. The seeds then pass through the animal unharmed and out of the other end with a ready supply of fertiliser. Not tasty in the slightest, quite the opposite obviously. This method ensures the seed is given nutrients to help it grow. So quite often birds will come along, they will eat the seeds or the fruits with the seeds in them. They'll go and fly off somewhere else, and they will deposit their poop somewhere else, and the seeds obviously that are inside that poo will then start to grow and germinate somewhere else. There's a good example of this happened that by where I live, and I was walking through the woods and all of a sudden came across raspberry bushes growing, and I thought, well, why are raspberry bushes growing in the middle of the woods? And I came to the conclusion it must have been the seed dispersal from birds who had probably eaten some raspberries in somebody's garden, gone along, flown away, and they'd pooped out the raspberry seeds, and it had started to grow in the woods. So, little question now, what types of fruits can you think of that are eaten by animals and people with the seeds inside? Pause it, have a little think, write some down, ask your parents or ask your nans, granddads, whoever you're stopping with at the moment, and see what fruits we can come up with. Right then, some that I researched and found out of fruits that you might eat. Cherries, they've got a stone inside. Again, the stone in there has the same idea as any seeds. We've got apples, they always have the pips inside. Pears, pretty much the same. Grapes have seeds in them. Not all grapes do. Some are seedless grapes, but obviously some do have to have seeds in to reproduce themselves. Okay, bananas have seeds inside them. So tiny sometimes you can't see them, but they are in there. Kiwi fruit have lots of little tiny black seeds in them. Plum just has one seed in the middle. An apricot also has one seed in the middle, same as a peach. Tropical fruits, figs, they have lots and lots of tiny little seeds inside. A mango has one large seed inside, the same as an avocado. Pomegranate, they have lots and lots of little seeds inside. So does star fruit. A lychee has one seed inside of it. Passion fruit has lots of seeds inside of it. Okay, the coconut, the actual coconut is the seed itself. Okay, so, and the same with pineapple. Quite often you can open up a pineapple and there are little tiny seeds inside. One fruit that has seeds on the outside of it, and that is a strawberry, and there are hundreds of tiny little brown seeds on the outside of a strawberry. Another type is drop and roll. Some fruits, such as horse chestnuts, have a casing around them which cracks open when it hits the ground. The fruit inside then rolls away from the tree because the fruit's quite a rounded shape, same as with the sweet chestnut really. You can tell which horse chestnuts in the trees are ripe because their castings have already begun to split open before they drop. So, why do you think the seeds or the fruit from the chestnut and the horse chestnut need to roll away from the tree? Think about what we discussed with some of the seeds earlier. Pause it, have a go, jot down an idea, and we'll come back with an answer. Well, once again, obviously the seeds need to roll away, so when their new seeds begin to germinate, they don't compete with the light and the water and the nutrients from the mother tree or the parent tree. It has to roll away so it's got enough place to be able to start growing in a healthy way itself. Okay, then finally, which method of seed dispersal do you think works the best? Give your reasons why, based on the information you have read or heard previously in this lesson. Take your time to jot down your idea, and then we'll come back and rediscuss the ways that we've heard. Okay then, your decision is up to you. So personally, I think the wind dispersal is pretty good because there is always a breeze, and it means that the seeds do actually go quite a far distance away from the parent tree. So wind dispersal is always a good one. Bursting, again with bursting, even though the pods have burst open, they don't burst that far away from the mother plant, so sometimes they rely on perhaps other animals picking them up and eating the seeds and taking them somewhere else. Water's a good one. Seeds will drop in the water, float away. If they drop in a river, they get sent down the river. If they drop in the sea, the water and the currents in the sea will take them away, so that's always a good one. Shakers, again, those with shakers on, again, the seeds don't go very far from the mother plant, so quite often they have to fight for nutrients and light and water with the mother plants, again relying perhaps on birds or animals to come along and eat them to take them off somewhere else. Catching a ride, they've always got to rely on something dragging past them. So this one's more difficult. So if there's not a passing dog or a cat or a human to come by and catch those seeds on their clothes or their fur, then it's not always an easy one to redisperse those seeds somewhere else. So all of these, they're all good methods. Some methods are probably slightly better than others. Hope you've enjoyed today's lesson, kids. Take care, and I'll be back with the next one soon. Bye.